Cool. Have we got anyone else for this sort of first into the second round, mid-second round? Adam, you got another player? Do you think that would slip into the second?
Well, you asked for one in the mid-second and got one at the end of the first. I mean, I don't know what he's talking about. So I'll actually give you one that might end up in the mid-second for you. And after he didn't have a great combine, and that's probably why he's going to end up as the mid-second, which is Troy Franklin. So Franklin out of Oregon, to me, everything from tape looks great. A lot of people were mocking him as though he was going to be in the first round, and like I say, he just had a bit of a poor combine. But I think he's got great hands, really good speed. He's a little bit small. That's kind of the only issue for him. He's 6'3", so he's good in height, but in weight he's a little bit lightweight, and so he kind of reminds me a little bit of Christian Watson, actually, where he kind of has that sort of slender build to him, but he's still got the height. That's kind of the only real knock on him, is that he's a bit small and that he didn't really test very well at the combine. But we've seen loads of times, haven't we, these players that don't necessarily test well, but it's the tape and what they do in college is what actually matters. And so I think Franklin is definitely a wide receiver that could be useful in the NFL, and definitely I think if he fell to the second round and a team like the Steelers were there, and they wanted to go for it, I think they could really sort of like push him on and turn him into something potentially quite special. It's just that there's a few measurables. That's all it is that are just a bit concerning. But as we say, you're seeing sort of smaller players all the time now that are doing well, and if you've got a team that can sort of like sort out their structure so that these small guys can succeed, then there's no reason why Franklin couldn't in the NFL.
Yeah, he had 160 receptions, 2,483 yards, 25 touchdowns. I assume all the 25 touchdowns thrown by one Bo Nix, I would imagine. So yeah, Andrew, do you agree that Franklin is a player that could sort of slip into that second? Does a slenderness worry you, even though we are seeing it more and more now that it's fine, it's okay, and but also as well, I suppose, again with the testing, do you think that does matter a lot to teams when they're going into the draft about how they did look at the combine in comparison to tape?
Yeah, I think when we have got a little cluster of guys that are very, very similar rated and have all got some nice aspects, and there's not a lot of sort of weaknesses, there's probably more strengths than weaknesses. You've got to then go to the things like the combine to say, I value all these guys very similarly, and I like all the tape on them. So how do I pick between them? I think the combine's one of those things that might separate these guys. Oh, he tested slightly better, so I'm going to go for him over that one. So I do think the testing matters to these guys when it comes to these middle of the second round, because that is the bit that you're going to say, that's why I'm picking him over this guy. I do worry about his contested catches because I think when we talked about Adunze having 80% catch on contested catch, I think his was 30%, wasn't it, on contested catches, which is a big worry for me. But he's still fantastic. He had a record-setting season, didn't he, in 2023? How can you pass up on watching a guy that had 1,383 yards and 14 touchdowns? It's there, and the tape is there, and it does look good. So I think go back and watch that and reevaluate him again. And we didn't talk about it with Harrison, but he didn't test out at all and pro days or combine because he didn't want to run a bad 40 in his stop drop. The likes of DeAndre Hopkins and Keenan Allen both ran really slow 40s, and their draft stock dropped quite a bit. And look how well they've produced in the NFL. I'm not saying this guy's going to live up to that. I'm just using it as an example that if you do test badly, you can still produce the goods in the NFL if your skill's there.